Those who have completed the salah, come closer. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار الذين اتبعوهم بإحسان صدق الله مولانا العظيم. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. From the 124,000 Sahaba radiallahu anhum, Allah Rabbul Izzah had given special privilege to 313. So at the time of the demise of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there were approximately 124,000 companions that had accompanied Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for the Hajj. And they all were virtuous in their own right. But 313 of those had a special virtue, and those are the 313 who participated in the Battle of Badr. And from the 313, there were 10 who were given glad tidings of Jannah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took their names and outlined their virtue and said that they are in Jannah. And from that 10, there were 4 who were given a special virtue within the 10. And from the 4, the most virtuous is none other than Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu was born 2 years before the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He had a similar upbringing to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the countryside. He was the companion of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam before Nubuwah. He was his neighbor and his friend. And when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had announced the call to the deen of Islam, then Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the 4th to accept. From the women, it was Sayyidah Khadija. From the boys, it was Sayyidina Ali. From the slaves, it was Sayyidina Zayd. And from the free men, the first to accept was Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He was shortish in stature, was fair in complexion, had a broad forehead, he had thick eyelashes, had very little hair on his chest. And when he became older, he dyed his beard with henna. So that is part of the sunnah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He was close to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his early life And therefore, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam presented the message of the deen of Islam to him, he had full confidence and accepted the message of the deen of Islam. And he had become disillusioned with the religion of the people of Makkah. As a young boy, one day, he went with his father to worship the idol. And when his father stepped aside, he said to the idol, "Oh idol, I'm hungry, give me some food." There was no response from the idol. He said, "Oh idol, I want clothes, give me some clothes." No response from the idol. He said, "Oh idol, I have many needs. Are you going to help me?" No response from the idol. Eventually he took up a stone and he threw it at the idol. And he said that if you cannot help me, then you are not worthy of being worshipped. And that from that moment, he abandoned the worship of idols. When he was 12 years old, he went on a business expedition to Syria. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was also on this expedition. And on this expedition, they met the monk Bahira. And the monk asked Abu Bakr, the young boy, "Who is that?" Referring to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, our Master Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who must have been about 14 years old. And he said, "He's Muhammad." And the monk said that, "You see that position where he's sitting now, that tree, it's only a Nabi who will sit under that tree. The last person to sit under that tree was Isa, the son of Maryam. And the fact that this young boy is sitting under that tree is a sign that he will be the final messenger." So this was a prelude for Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu as to what was to come. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then invited him towards the deen of Islam, he accepted and he started calling others. And many of the initial Muslims accepted Islam on his hands. It was a time when people were being persecuted for their deen. They were being tortured. They were being tormented. And because of that, there was great hardship. Despite that, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu remained steadfast. Amongst those who were suffering greatly at the hands of the kuffar was Sayyidina Bilal. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr purchased him because he was a slave and set him free. And many of the other Muslims who were slaves, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu set them free. And then his father Abu Quhafa came to him and said to him that, "Okay, I see, that you're freeing all these slaves, but you're choosing the weakest of the weak and the most helpless and the most, who are unable to assist you in any way. So why don't you choose the strong ones and free them?" And he then told his father that, "I'm not freeing them for my own benefit, I'm freeing them for the sake of Allah." And there were verses were revealed, praising the sincerity of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhum. When the Muslims reached the number of 30, then he asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam permission to go and announce the call to the deen of Islam openly. Up until this point, it was secret. So he went into the Masjid al-Haram and stood before the Kaaba and delivered a khutbah, a sermon, in which he called the people towards the deen of Islam. And the moment he started speaking, the kuffar immediately pounced on him, started beating him up. They hit him with their sandals and their shoes on his face to such an extent that his face was so swollen that you could not differentiate between what was his nose and what was his cheeks. He fell unconscious and he was taken to his home. And there he was treated. And when he gained consciousness, what was the first question he asked? "Ma fa'ala Rasulillah? Ma fa'ala Rasulullah?" What is the condition of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Where is he? That was his only concern. And eventually, until he was not taken to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and saw Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is safe, he did not rest. And his mother had to take him to the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This was his intense love for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had announced that Allah Rabbul Izzah had taken Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam on the epic journey of Mi'raj from Makkah to Mukarramah to Masjid al-Aqsa, and from Masjid al-Aqsa to the seven heavens and beyond. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam announced this to the kuffar. And they then went to Sayyidina Abu Bakr and said, you heard what Muhammad is saying, that he traveled from year to year and year to year in one night. And they said it in such a way to try and create doubt in Sayyidina Abu Bakr. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, is this what he's really saying? And when he was told that, yes, this is really what Muhammad is saying, he said, then I believe it. Because I believe something even more greater than that. And that is that Jibreel comes to him and brings revelation to him. That is far greater than this journey. And that is when Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was given the title of Siddiq, the truthful one. And he has a special position and a special maqam, the maqam of Siddiq in this ummah, the most virtuous individual in this ummah. And therefore, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went onto Mount Uhud once, and he had with him Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Uthman, and Sayyidina Ali, and he said to the mountain was quivering, and he said to the mountain, be still, you have on you a Siddiq and 2 martyrs with you, or 3 martyrs with you. So this was a special maqam. أولئك الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was always desirous that he be with Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam undertakes the hijrah, and Allah Rabbul Izzah had chosen him for that. But before that, when the difficulties of the people of Makkah had become too much for him to bear, then one day he decided that he was going to make hijrah first and foremost to Abyssinia. And on his journey to Abyssinia, he reached a point called Barkud Ghimad, which is in Yemen. And there he met a person called Ibn Daghina. And Ibn Daghina asked him that, oh Abu Bakr, where are you going? And he said that I can no longer live in Makkah. So therefore I'm traveling on the land of Allah, and so that I can worship Allah. And Ibn Daghina says, a man of your caliber, la yakhruju wa la yukhraj. He does not leave Makkah, nor should he be made to leave. I will take you back on my security. And then he said to him that, oh Abu Bakr, you such a man who joins family ties, who assists those in need, who carries the load of those who are too weak, who enjoys goodness. Now, if you listen to this description that Ibn Daghina had given of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, then you'll realize that this is the very description which Sayyidah Khadija had comforted Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with when he came back from the cave of Hira after having received the first revelation, and he was perturbed and very anxious at that time. Then she comforted him by outlining his virtue. And when she spoke of his virtue, and you look at Ibn Daghina describing Sayyidina Abu Bakr, then undoubtedly you'll realize that Sayyidina Abu Bakr was a mirror reflection of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr came back to Makkah al-Mukarramah under the protection of Ibn Daghina on the condition that he worships his Lord in his home. That was the condition that the people of Makkah had put, that he can come back, he will be protected, but he must only worship Allah in his home. Then Sayyidina Abu Bakr built for himself a musalla in the courtyard of his home. And the entire night, he would go there and recite the noble Quran. And all the women and all the children would secretly come out to listen to his recitation of the noble Quran. And the people of Makkah became perturbed. And they said to Ibn Daghina that this man is here on your protection, but look what he's doing. He's enchanting and trapping our women and our children. So tell him that he has to worship his Lord secretly in his home, or otherwise we are going to violate your protection that you had given him, and you would obviously not want that. So Ibn Dakhina comes to Sayyidina Abu Bakr and tells him that, look, you cannot worship your Allah in this way. You need to be more discreet. And at that point, Sayyidina Abu Bakr says that I'm returning to you your protection. I suffice with the protection of Allah. Then when the time came for the hijrah to Makkah al-Mukarramah, to Madinah al-Munawwarah, Nabi Sallallahu came to Sayyidina Abu Bakr and said to him that Allah has given me permission to make hijrah. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu asked, O Nabi of Allah, as-sahbah, will I be your companion? And Nabi Sallallahu said, yes, you will be my companion. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr had kept 2 camels waiting for this occasion. And Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, who was there, says that when Nabi Sallallahu replied with the affirmative that Sayyidina Abu Bakr will be the companion, giving him the good news, he started crying. That is how happy he was. And she says, till that point, I did not know that a man could cry out of happiness. That such elation that it brought him tears. And when Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Nabi Sallallahu proceeded out of Makkah, they then took refuge in the cave of Thawr. And when they entered the cave, Sayyidina Abu Bakr goes in first. And he cleans out the cave to ensure that there's nothing harmful in the cave. He closes all the holes, which could be for snakes and scorpions. And then he doesn't have anything left to close one of the holes. He tells the Messenger ﷺ that the cave is now clear, you may come in. And Nabi ﷺ and Sayyidina Abu Bakr then take refuge in the cave. While Nabi ﷺ is resting on Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he puts his one foot to close the one hole that he did not have anything to close. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Nabi Sallallahu is resting on his lap, and a scorpion comes and bites Sayyidina Abu Bakr. But he doesn't want to move because he doesn't want to disturb the Messenger Sallallahu until a tear of his falls on the Messenger Sallallahu body, and Nabi Sallallahu is alerted to what is happening. The people of Makkah are looking for Nabi Sallallahu and Sayyidina Abu Bakr. They had entered the cave, and the spider had spun a web around the cave. When they come outside the cave and they're looking, they've searched all over, and one of them say that let us go look in the cave. And Abu Jahl, the very enemy, says, no, I know this tree and I know the spider's web here, they're not in this cave. While they're standing outside, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala says to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, لو نظر أحدهم إلى موضع قدميه لرآنا. That if he just looks downwards, he will see us. And in that point, Allah Rabbul Izzah reveals verses, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that ما ظنكم باثنين الله ثالثهما. Then what do you think of the two? Allah is the third with them. فأنزل الله سكينته عليه وأيده بجنود لم تروها. And like that, Allah Rabbul Izzah protected them. In the night, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's son would bring food, and he would gain intelligence from a certain guide. And when the coast was clear, and when it was the right time, after 3 days, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu set off on the hijrah to Madinatul Munawwarah. And in this journey, Suraqa, who was not a Muslim at that time, he attempted to capture them because there was a booty on the head of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr, sometimes he's walking in the front, anticipating that an enemy may come from this front. Then he decides to walk in the back